What if you gave a presentation and nobody was there? Hi, this is Gary. This is another Gary on manufacturing as I get away from vacation and a bunch of stuff going on and get back into my normal routine. I have a new podcast ad from the same company, Inductive Automation, but they have some new things to talk about. This podcast is brought to you with the support of Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new perspective on industrial automation with Ignition, packed with innovative features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, and mobile-first flexibility, and an intuitive built-in design environment. Ignition supports enterprises of any size or industry. See all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. Now, you can have all the power of Ignition with the convenience of the cloud. Ignition Cloud Edition makes it easy to add the power of the cloud to your Ignition architectures. Extend and hybridize your enterprise operations. Leverage elastic architecture that instantly scales up or down, and securely host and deploy solutions on the world's most trusted cloud platforms, all on a pay-as-you-go plan. And thank you very much to Inductive Automation, my long-term sponsor, which I appreciate. It keeps me going in my little hobby that one way or another reaches close to 150,000 people a month. And the way things are going in this industry and with the media, that's I'll call that good. So I gave a presentation a little over a week ago, and the presentation was on digital disruption and digital transformation, that sort of thing. And I hate buzzwords and I love definitions, and so trying to get all of that going at the same time, I took a look and I began with talking about digital and data and digital transformation and that sort of thing, and pointed out that that is not new. I hate to tell how old I am, but in 1978, when my title, well, it was not my official title, was Kid in Engineering, I reported to the vice president of product development for a manufacturing company. We made consumer products. And back in those days, we didn't have 5 layers of vice presidents like companies do today. Anyway, the VP of product development and I had gotten together, and among many things, I was responsible for all engineering data, leaving the department and then closing the loop and taking care of engineering change notices and so on like that, and liaising. God, that's a bad word, with accounting and the cost accounting function, which was extremely important because if the bill of materials wasn't correct in the engineering data, and if the costing wasn't correct when it got into the financial system, whenever a product was shipped out the back door, and the inventory was then deleted from, that all the bill of materials was deleted from inventory stock. If all that wasn't correct, we wound up with inventory variances. And the vice president of finance, today we would say CFO, got very nervous about things like that, but it also affected purchasing and how much was on hand. It had a lot of impact on a lot of things. And we had in 1978 an IBM Series 3 mini computer that was used basically for a mailing list. Pretty revolutionary at the time. Nobody really, small company like ours, about $120 million turnover in 78. So we were a decent sized company, but not huge. But anyway, in order to try to automate some things and make it easier to track, make it easier to cost and for inventory and so on, and my boss thought it'd be a good idea if our department took over the budding, if you will, MIS department, Management Information Systems, which today we call IT. And he thought I would be the ideal candidate to become the new head of that. It didn't work out for a lot of reasons, among which was he was laid off and then I was laid off. As they say, when the president goes, the vice president level goes, and then the people that reported to the vice president go. And but I did go to IBM school. I bought or at least actually an IBM application for our mini computer and got busy putting the bills of material and costing and other goodies on our mini. I went off to IBM school. I learned about what today we would call MES or MOM. Back in those days, it was called MRP2, but let's not get too three-letter acronym going here. But anyway, I digitized engineering data and digitized, if you will, some accounting data in order that we could use digital to help us as we tried to improve operations. Like I say, it was my first step into it. We didn't finish it for a lot of reasons. Sometimes, the market gets in the way. When the market tanks and you're not selling product, you're all in trouble. But anyway, I discussed that the digital goes back a long way. So all of you that think you're brand new into something new with data and digital transformation and so on, well, we've been trying to do that a long time. It's just the tools are getting better and better. And a lot of tools have come along and they're not really used as much as maybe they could be, like MES applications. How many of you use those and how many of you use Microsoft Excel? And so on. I have an application which is on the web for a hobby called soccer, and it's on the web, but I wish it was in Excel where I could just type real fast and do all the input and then dump it into the cloud, if you will. So anyway, this has been going on some time, and we're still working on it. Tools are still coming out, and tools get better. Interfaces are better. It's easier to put stuff in. It's easier to see stuff. It's easier to get charts and graphs and reports and so on. So things are better, but it's not new. We just keep improving to do the same thing we were always trying to do: improve operations and profitability, and kind of know where things went. So that was one of the parts of my presentation had to do with that. I got into it a little bit deeper and took a little bit at a look at disruption. So we talk about disruption, but actually, some of it is within our control. And those of us in engineering or IT or that sort of things. If we're not the CEO or at some level up there, we should still be looking because we should always be aware of what could be coming around the corner to disrupt our whole company. I bring out the example of the mail in the 1850s. Actually, in the United States, we built our empire by going from New England to California, unlike Europe that built their empires going to Africa and Asia and created all kinds of problems down the road. But we had the gold rush in 1849, the 49ers, and people on the East Coast needed to send mail to the people on the West Coast that had moved out there and so on. And it was really hard to get mail to go that far through hostile territories and 1,000 miles of nothingness and all that sort of stuff. And there was a company that solved the problem. They decided they would have, and they advertised for young, basically stupid because it's very dangerous and you could probably die, men who could ride a pony. And what you would do would be you take a pony and you take off from either Sacramento, California, or from St. Joseph's, Missouri, and you ride as fast as you could, changing horses every once in a while at a way station, and eventually make it from one end to the other. And they could do that in 10 days. So mail going 10 days from Missouri to California was sensational. And the Pony Express was pretty famous, and maybe if you're American, you've probably heard of it. I hope even if you're younger that they taught that in school somewhere. I'm not that old. I wasn't there in 1860. But anyway, soon after, the Western Union Company had been working on something called telegraph, and they were running wires. And if you were ever a ham radio operator back in my age, I had to learn Morse code, did da 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 did that kind of stuff. And they used that to send messages, data over electrical wire. Well, 19 months after the Pony Express started, Western Union hooked up their final wires to connect the East Coast and the West Coast. And now, at the speed of light minus resistance, more or less. You could send a message, almost instantaneously from one end of the country to the other. And it only took a few days before the Pony Express closed the doors, was done. It was over. Story's not over there. In less than 20 years, many hobbyists and inventors and people have been working on sending not just pulses of electricity, dit, dit, da, da, but they were sending voice over electrical wires. And at some point, a guy by the name of Alexander Graham Bell invented a good way to do that. And he came up with a good way to send voice over wire. And he was starting a company. So he went to the main company in the business of communications, Western Union, and said, "Hey, we want to do an investment. It'll be, both of our benefits and whatever." And Western Union said, "We're in the telegraph business. We're not in the telephone business." And they declined to invest in Bell, which became the Bell Systems and AT&T and the Bell Labs and everything else down the road. Just think where Western Union would be had they made that investment. They got disrupted and they didn't go totally out of business like the Pony Express, but their business never really grew anymore. So disruption comes from all kinds of places and you never know. And you need to keep your eyes open. And even if you're not the C-suite where you're supposed to be looking out over the landscape, it behooves you to keep looking over the landscape because, especially if you're software people, who knows that you could write the next ThingWorks or something and sell it off and make some money and do a lot of people a lot of good, or some other piece of software, or maybe some cool piece of hardware. So I discussed that in my talk. So we got disruption, we've got digital, and then I took off and took a look at innovation. And innovation is interesting. I have a source, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, in his book called Anti-Fragile. Spends a couple, 3 pages discussing the evolution of innovation, and much of it leading to the Industrial Revolution back in England. Most of the innovations did not, he's kind of an anti-academic, even though he taught statistics at New York University. Anyway, he took a look at this, and the official scientific people, the official academic people, the official quote unquote people who were blessed to be innovators weren't really the people who were innovating and finding stuff. It was English rectors, the vicar in a little village had the village church and was provided a nice house and housekeeping services. And as Taleb says, and plenty of tea and scones and clotted cream, and time on their hands. And, Reverend Bayesian probability, Reverend Jack Russell bred the terrier. Some of them worked on looms. Some of them worked on one became like the best scholar of dinosaurs, and another one was the best scholar of spiders, and all kinds of things. And a lot of this innovation and so on came from individual people working on things, and they had time and they played around and they pushed the limits of knowledge. The steam engine. The steam engine was essentially, for all intents and purposes, invented by the ancient Greeks. Never used until in England, some people started playing around. They weren't academics. They weren't degreed mechanical engineers. They were solving a problem. They needed power. And if I could get that steam engine working and just fix this mechanical thing, and so on, and put it together, then I could transform that into power to power these new looms and spinning things that were being invented. And once again, these were just people, kind of like technologists playing with technology to solve a problem to make something better. And today that could be you. I grew up with a lot of shade tree mechanics, good old boys that literally I can remember a couple of big old trees back in the village I grew up in, and the guys and their wrenches and stuff, and letting me, the little 10-year-old kid, hang on or whatever, watch them pull heads and bore and stroke and all kinds of stuff that we did with cars back in the day. Same deal. individual people just doing stuff, and that could be you, individual person playing around saying, how can I make this better? Just a technologist playing with technology to solve a problem and make something better. And the last thing I talked about, and that leads into like you being an innovator and a disruptor, would be people. We keep talking about like the autonomous factory, and when I was younger, they had this joke about the man and the dog is all it took to run a factory. And I guess the man turned on the thing in the morning, and the dog was to make sure he didn't do anything else. Uh, and then the thing just ran and spit out parts. Well, that isn't going to work. Where's the creativity? Where's the innovation? Where's fixing something when it breaks? Because it will. If it's mechanical, it will break. I got a car in the garage. Tell me about it. Anyway, we bringing along people make the difference, and working with people, bringing your people along, teamwork, collaboration, these good old buzzwords that really do work if you really do it. And so that was the gist of what else I was talking about there. And I'll leave you, if you're one of these people that you're supposed to be out there, maybe you're an automation person or some kind of other thing, and you're working on the thing, and they tell you we need more data, need more data. Taleb, I referred to earlier, said we're going to get so much data we're going to drown in it if we're not careful. And a doctor I follow on health advice talked about sleep trackers, and he said sleep trackers give you a lot of data, but sometimes too much data causes you not to be able to sleep at night. So anyway, this is Gary Mitchell. This has been another Manufacturing Connection Minute. And once again, I'll remind you, my sponsor, my longtime sponsor, whom I really appreciate. This podcast is brought to you with support from Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new perspective on industrial automation with Ignition, packed with innovative features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, and mobile-first flexibility, and an intuitive built-in design environment. Ignition supports enterprises of any size or industry. See all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. And now you can have all the power of Ignition and the convenience of the cloud. Ignition Cloud Edition makes it easy to add power of the cloud to your Ignition architectures. Extend and hybridize your enterprise operations. Leverage elastic architecture that instantly scales up or down and securely host and deploy solutions on the world's most trusted cloud platforms, all on a pay-as-you-go plan. Thanks a lot. Go be a difference. Have a good one.